Got a twice ice machine that's not working. Arctic temp. So that compressor, that condenser fan motor is not running, but it has head pressure cycle control, so the fans will cycle on and off. It's got 38 amps on the compressor. This 15 amp breaker is what was tripping. So I'm watching it right now, but it just goes to the crankcase heater and the oil pressure switch. And the amps have not went above 15, so we're just kind of watching it right now. I've never worked on one of these before, but I'm just using basic refrigeration knowledge to see what we can figure out. Alright, so got a bad start capacitor on this, so I'm going to try to swap it out. This has a centrifugal relay that's supposed to kick out the start capacitor once the motor gets going. So it could have either been just a bad capacitor, or this motor could be faulty and not kicking out the relay, which we're about to, or not kicking out the start capacitor, which we're about to check. I'm going to wire this up. But basically, this is our main. This is the breaker that it kept tripping, because that's wired down here, and then it feeds our motors in here. So this motor and that motor, I found this one was pulling 40 amps on a 15 amp breaker, so we're gonna swap this. Alright, so this is a setup. So this is your evaporator. Ice freezes on the outside and the inside. Whenever the shaft spins, it breaks up that ice down, drops it down. So we're gonna turn power on. And then this is our breaker that was tripping. It's pulling 40 amps. Let's see here. Machine's back on. Right now I'm just waiting for it to make enough ice for this pump to come on. That way I can look at the amps. But before I change the start cap, it's right here. It was pulling 40 amps. So we're gonna check the amps as soon as it comes on. Alright, so I'm waiting on the motor to come on. I was gonna go over the sequence of operation. So basically, what happens is the condensing unit's gonna freeze up this evaporator, create ice. Once it creates a certain amount of ice, that pump's gonna come on, break up the ice. It's gonna fall down into a tray where it's got a belt drive. The belt's gonna drive all the ice to an auger that breaks it up and then sends it down, and then it comes out into your bag and it bags it up. Amps again. I'm gonna try to reset it one more time, but it was pulling 40, so. Motor. Alright, it looks like it's going to be a bad motor. Okay, so this is our feed. It loops around, comes up, feeds into this conduit, that black wire right there. So I'm going to check the amps directly on the motor. Definitely a bad motor. So I got our old motor snatched out. I got the key out. And there is 2 set screws. One's right there. The other one's 1, 2. Now we got a motor pulley. Just gonna pull it off and put it on the new motor. Alright, so the new motor is installed. Got the key in, and those are set screws are set. So we just gotta hook up power. I'm gonna put the belts on. Alright, so I got this new motor in. Right now it's just building more ice. It just came on, was only pulling 6 amps, knocked all the ice off. So I'm going to try to show y'all it, but it does seem to be working properly now with the new motor. Alright, so I wanted to give a rundown on that ice machine, the twice the ice. So basically the circuit breaker was tripping up on top at the condensing unit. It was a 15 amp breaker. I followed the wires in the schematic and found that it controls the evaporator motor. And this motor basically has a big old shaft on it with some cutters, and it cuts up the ice that forms on the barrels there, or cylinders. And what was happening is it was pulling 40 amps and it would shut off. I found the capacitor was faulty, replaced it. It was still pulling 40 amps, so I went ahead and replaced the motor. Now it's pulling 6 amps, spinning in the correct direction, everything's working like it's supposed to. It was a pretty simple fix, but it was unfamiliar to me because I've never worked on one of these, so I just kind of wanted to make a little video on it. But thank you for watching.